the military's not ready?
Well, I have a project on my website, don't ask, DADTstoryproject.com, where I'm asking men and women to give their testimony about what it's like to serve in the military as a gay man or woman, and to write about it, to write about that personal story. There's also a petition online that I have to sign my petition. The more service members that we can get to sign that petition, the stronger it will be. But, you know, one of the questions that was asked in the hearing was very telling. We serve with openly gay men and women in Iraq and Afghanistan today. We serve with the UK troops, we serve with troops from France, we serve with troops from Israel. Many places in the world already have done this change. They've already gotten rid of similar policies. 25 countries have eliminated similar policies. And Admiral Mullen says, I have talked to the commanding officers of all these troops, and they say they have no problem with troop morale and no problem with unit cohesion. So that testimony says it all, and and that's why Admiral Mullen said, I have every confidence that our military men and women can accommodate this change. They already serve with openly gay men and women.
I want to thank you for your co-sponsorship of the latest Iran sanctions legislation. It's really important, and we are now seeing a shift to treatment of Iran now that is different from what was in the campaign, to a more aggressive approach.
Yep.
Can you please comment with your work on Senate Foreign Relations about how this will impact how we deal with Iran, whether you think that there's any possibility for actually clamping down on them, how sanctions will impact the way they produce nuclear weapons, etc.
Yes. I was in Israel in September, and I met with the Prime Minister, I met with the head of Mossad, I met with the head of Shin Bet, I met with the head of Southern Command, I met with the head of military intelligence. And the whole purpose of that visit was to talk about terrorism and to talk about security issues. So I had a very fulsome conversation with all of those leaders. And what they said was they believe that Iran has already all the nuclear capability that they need to be at the decision point for whether they will militarize or not. They have all the capability they need, they just have to now decide. Once they decide to militarize, it may take a year or two to accomplish that, but they have the technology they need to accomplish that. And what they were arguing was, we appreciate President Obama's engagement strategy, but we think it must be combined with very strict sanctions now. Because you have to put pressure on Iran to make a decision whether or not they would like to be part of the world economic community. And they believe that now is the crucial time that if you push these very tough sanctions forward now, tough sanctions on limiting refined petroleum, tough sanctions on economic ties with businesses that do business in Iran and countries that do business in Iran, really clamping down and really stopping the flow of an economic relationship with many of their allies. Oops, I'm not in the middle. So what I think we have to do is, we've already passed the sanctions in the Senate. I think it's very important that the President move forward with these sanctions, because I do believe it is the last effort before military action will need to be taken. And Israel is prepared to take that military action whenever they feel that their security is going to be at risk because they've made that decision to militarize. And for those of you who don't follow foreign policy, if Iran chooses to have nuclear weapons, it will destabilize the entire Middle East, because every other nation in the Middle East will then acquire nuclear weapons. Then the likelihood of them being sold to terrorist groups who hate America, whether it's Al-Qaeda or Hamas or Hezbollah or any of them, is highly likely. And so we then become at risk of a nuclear weapon being detonated, a dirty bomb in a shopping mall or in a stadium, and that is any national security person's #1 nightmare. And so the risks are very, very high. So I'm hopeful that the Obama administration will pursue tough sanctions. And there is a reason that Iran may well choose to join the economic community. If their entire economy is shut down, they have a reason to want prosperity. They have a reason to want to be legitimate in the eyes of counterparts throughout the world. And so that will give them a reason to choose that, as opposed to going in the other direction where there will be military consequences. So I'm very hopeful that the administration will change direction and start with some tough sanctions. Last question. Go ahead, Brian. It's all you.
So exciting to see you. I wanted to ask you a question I was asking your predecessor a lot, Hillary, which is, I think you said job creation is the #1 issue. I believe it is. I think most people here probably think it is. What are you going to do about jobs in upstate New York? How do you do that? I mean, that's such a difficult question.
It's not good. Upstate New York has many challenges and many blessings. And what we do very well is we have excellent universities and SUNY systems. We've got great universities in Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse and Albany and all through the upstate region from Western New York straight through to my part of upstate New York. And so we have a great workforce. We also have a history of manufacturing that is very strong. And so that's why we get so worried when jobs get sent overseas. And so the most promising areas for job creation in upstate are in high-tech fields, growing fields, fields that are moving forward. So for example, in the Albany area, we combined with SUNY Albany to do Albany Nanotech. They have some of the state-of-the-art nanotech development in the Albany region, and that's why AMD, one of the greatest chip manufacturers in the world, chose to put a $5 billion chip manufacturer right in the middle of Saratoga County for a couple of reasons. There's great transportation networks between New York City, Boston, and Canada, but also it just happens to be a very quiet place so they can actually manufacture these very, very next generation chips. So that's something that's happening there. In Western New York through Central New York, we actually excel at biotech. Both Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse have some of the most cutting-edge biotechnology research and development. IBM wants to put a supercomputer in Buffalo. They want to put a data center in Rochester so that they can manipulate the data that's coming from healthcare IT investments all across the country. We also excel in energy markets, and that's why I've really been pushing investment into energy, because it is the next big thing. And we want to make sure America is at the cutting edge of new energy markets so that we can compete economically. China, India is trying their best to beat us in reaching new technologies, cheaper ways to offer solar, wind, biofuels, geothermal, hydropower. But we're very good at innovation. We are, great entrepreneurs, great innovators, and we're very competitive. So I want to put more money to enhance that innovation, to drive that market, and Upstate can be part of that. Not only because we have agriculture, so we can do a lot of the biofuels and cellulosic ethanol, but we're also at the forefront of wind and solar and GE, for example. We're at the forefront of fuel cell technology and new battery technologies. And we've been at the forefront of hydropower forever because Niagara Falls and Hudson River. So we can make a difference in these areas, and that's why companies from all over the world are locating in upstate New York to be part of these hubs that go around our university system, because you have a built-in workforce because of the university and built-in entrepreneurialism because of this collaboration. A lot of the high-tech industries, they like to collaborate, they like to cluster, and we've actually situated that around our hubs. And that's the best economic development model for upstate New York and really in the country. So. One more round of applause for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Thank you all so much for coming, and please remember to sign up, be part of the campaign in the front or with